Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Now, I would be lying if I said I didn't notice a few people in the comments asking me when I'm going to be camping again, and well, here you are. Or here I am, rather. I'm camping right now. It's not necessarily a gorgeous day. I mean, it was raining earlier. It's supposed to rain again, but hopefully the rain is just minor and it subsides and everything goes back to normal. Normal has kind of been raining though this year, so hopefully it just goes back to clear skies. Anyways, here we've got a lot of news to talk about, so come along with me on my morning walk and let's talk some news. All right, to kick things off, we're talking about Nintendo 3DS emulation with 3 Beans. Now, you may or may not be familiar with 3 Beans. We've talked about it before on the channel. The person behind 3 Beans is the same person behind Nintendo DS emulator Nudes. Now, it's worth pointing out that 3 Beans is kind of its own thing, and it's still pretty early on in terms of compatibility and performance, so don't really expect anything out of it just yet. They say here it's a low-level 3DS emulator. Maybe. 3 Beans is an experimental low-level 3DS emulator. It's in the early stages of running games, but the home menu still doesn't fully boot. Unless you're looking to run bare metal FIRMs like God Mode 9, you probably won't get much out of this yet. However, if you are a big fan of God Mode 9 is now booting in 3 Beans. And I'm very curious to see what the future of this emulator holds. And speaking about experimental stuff, next up we're talking about PlayStation 2 emulation with Iris. So we're not talking about PCSX2 or NetherSX2 or Play. This is a completely separate project. We've talked about this one in the past, but it's an experimental PS2 emulator and debugger, and it just got a brand new update. Now, just like 3 Beans, this one's still pretty early on in terms of overall compatibility and performance and all of that. There's a warning here right on the GitHub. This emulator is under development. Most games will run at very low, unplayable frame rates. So at the time of filming, Iris version 0.12 Alpha is the latest update. And they say, while this is a fairly minor release, they've reworked large chunks of the underlying code base. There's also a whole bunch of bug fixes, including the DualShock 2 emulation bugs that were preventing some games from processing inputs, which includes Outrun 2 SP, Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast, Automodelista, etc. And just like 3DS emulator 3 Beans, I'm very curious to see where PS2 emulator Iris ends up going. Now, if you're interested in this and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. And on a quick side note, if you're into racing games and you like PS2 stuff, I would recommend checking out Automodelista if you have never checked out that game before. That game, well, I've played through, I couldn't tell you how many times. It's a lot of fun. And speaking about racing games and a lot of fun, next up we're kind of talking about the exact opposite of that. We're talking about EA. And EA is ending online support for Need for Speed Rivals in October 2025, which is this year. Now, fortunately, there is a silver lining in all of this. Now, to me, this should just be table stakes in the entire industry, but for some reason or another, it's not, and that's why we have the Stop Killing Games initiative. So the silver lining here is that online support is just ending, but I guess single player is going to be absolutely fine and unaffected. Now, to be honest with you, I think the online portion of Need for Speed Rivals was probably one of the bigger parts about the game, but whatever. This appears to be for both consoles and for PC. I mean, taking a look on the Steam store page right now for the Need for Speed Rivals Complete Edition, and it says online servers will be retired on October 7th, 2025. For a game that came out back in 2013, it's had a pretty good run, and I would say this is a very unfortunate end. And interestingly here, and I think Stop Killing Games, if you are watching this video, and I'll try to post this on my socials as well, it says right in the description of Need for Speed Rivals Complete Edition, own the complete Need for Speed Rivals experience. Not lease, not rent. Own. And speaking about Stop Killing Games, next up we're still talking about Stop Killing Games, and this is more of just a friendly heads up as to the current progress of the initiative. So taking a look, it's currently at 1.325 million signatures. That's 1,325,000 signatures for the campaign. And I am extremely excited to see that number. And I would say even though they beat the threshold of 1 million, this campaign is still incredibly important to continue getting signatures on. At the time of filming, there's still 18 days left to go. And if you're in the EU or in the UK and you're debating on whether or not to sign the initiative or the petition, I'd recommend giving it a read, and don't think just because there's a lot of signatures on it that your signature doesn't matter. I would say every single signature on this matters. And speaking about mattering, next up we're talking about Pirate Software. And Pirate Software is, well, Pirate Software doesn't seem to be doing too well right now in the social media space. I mean, yes, their channel has a lot of subscribers. Yes, they're absolutely huge. And yes, they continue to seem to fumble in terms of PR and how they should handle their viewership. I could be wrong about that. But anyways here, I mean, take a look at this title, and this is on Dexerto. Pirate Software is hemorrhaging YouTube subscribers since Stop Killing Games controversy. So according to reports, and I mean, you can check this stuff on Social Blade if you wanted to verify, but Pirate Software has lost more than 100,000 YouTube subscribers in just 2 weeks. That is quite a bit. It might be a drop in the bucket for a channel as big as Pirate Software, but at the same time, that is nothing to turn your nose up at. I mean, in fact, taking a look at Social Blade right now, and it says that they've lost 140,000 subscribers in the last 30 days. That is quite a bit. Now, I'm not going to say all of this has come from, but possibly a large part of it has come from the Stop Killing Games initiative and their unpopular opinions about it, and then doubling down on those unpopular opinions. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of all of that. But I would say that I don't know Pirate Software personally, so I don't know their mentality. I don't know their thoughts on the matter. I don't know their personality. But I would say, based on statistics that are evident, self-reflection may be in order. Now, I'm not going to say you can't have an opinion on the matter, but at the same time, sometimes opinions are unpopular. I've had a few unpopular opinions over the years. But there doesn't seem to be any connection and self-reflection to the situation that's going on. I mean, Pirate Software has called themselves the villain. And if they see themselves turning into the villain, you'd think they would reflect on what has got them there, and maybe they made a misstep. Maybe with what they're doing and what they're saying is not of the popular mindset, the popular opinion, and maybe they're missing something. Could be wrong about that. Maybe they just want to double, triple, quadruple down and not take any accountability, not think they're wrong for anything, and think it's the people and not them. But getting away from that and that can of worms before I go on a rant about the matter and probably get myself into some sort of trouble. Next up, we're talking about Intel. So speaking about being self-aware, Intel seems to be. And there was a very interesting speech given by the new-ish CEO of Intel. So from my understanding, Intel CEO addressed staff worldwide and said stuff like 20, 30 years ago, we are really the leader. Now I think the world has changed. We are not in the top 10 semiconductor companies. Furthermore, in regards to AI training, they said something along the lines of, on training, I think it is too late for us. And NVIDIA is just too strong. Furthermore, it appears that Intel is continuing to reduce the size of its workforce. The layoffs currently underway at Intel mark the start of a marathon effect to make the company more nimble and agile. I've heard that a million times before. Like rivals such as AMD and NVIDIA, and that Intel needs to be humble now. All of this information is up on Tech Radar, and again, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below if you wanted to learn more about it. I would recommend checking out the article. There's an interesting paragraph here as well. In order to progress Intel's AI ambitions, we're told some big hires are being made, including 3 new vice presidents who have been brought on board to better tap into the AI arena. And I'm curious to see if that strategy works. Bring on more executives and lean out the workforce in order to try to get things done. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I would argue that it was the executives who got Intel to its current state. I mean, who makes the decisions? It's not the people doing the work, it's usually the executives. Anyways, that's a story for another day. So taking a look at things now, I'm very curious to see how Intel progresses moving forward, because it does seem that they're going to try to plow through and get better, which makes complete sense. I'm not going to lie here, I am curious to hear your thoughts on the matter. I mean, whenever I review something from Intel, it seems that a lot of people are not a big fan of the company anymore. But Intel bringing in a new CEO, and I'm guessing the new CEO bringing in their own regime, is probably going to do whatever they can to try to turn things around. And them being very self-aware by basically admitting they're no longer a chip leader or an AI leader, if they're ever an AI leader. I think that may be a pretty humbling sentiment overall for the company, and I'm curious to see where they go from here. And speaking about where stuff is going from here, next up we're talking about Mario Kart 64 Recompiled, which is the PC port of Mario Kart 64. Anyways, Mario Kart 64 Recompiled version 0.0.9 has just dropped. And in this brand new update, there's now mod support. Now, unfortunately, at this point in time, I don't have a firm list as to what mods are compatible and what aren't with Mario Kart 64 Recompiled. But we do know that the HD texture pack is now compatible with Mario Kart 64 Recompiled. And based on my understanding here, Mario Kart 64 Recompiled is a completely separate project to the Harbor Master Spaghetti Kart project. But I'll link both in the description below if you wanted to learn more about either. And speaking about Nintendo 64 stuff, last up here we're talking about Nintendo 64 emulation with Gopher 64. And Gopher 64 just got a brand new update to version 1.1.0. And they say here, I am very happy to announce version 1.1.0. With this release, I can say that Gopher 64 has reached feature parity with Simple 64. So for those who may or may not be aware, the person behind Gopher 64 is the exact same person behind Simple 64. Gopher 64 is kind of the new version of the project, per se. That'll take a little bit to explain, but at a high level here, if you're looking for N64 emulation and you were using Simple 64, you may want to check out Gopher 64. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. I didn't see any fluffs on my morning walk, but the sun is coming out and maybe the fluffs will make an appearance in tomorrow's video. Who knows? Provided I'm camping tomorrow. But I'm always kind of camping. Anyways, we talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.